Hello, scholars. My name is Dr. Kara Dillon, and the goal of this channel is to make academic subjects easier to understand. In the last video, we talked about the history of psychology. In this video, we're going to talk about psychology and states of consciousness. So let's begin. Human beings have a unique quality that makes them different from the rest of the animal kingdom, as far as we know. The ability to be aware of and reflect upon one's own internal stimuli, experiencing pain, being tired, having hunger or thirst, being sleepy or being anxious, as well as external stimuli, the environment around us, are part of what we call human consciousness. Individuals are often surprised to learn that we have different levels of consciousness. If humans are extremely tired, have used certain drugs, or have debilitating disease, their levels of awareness or consciousness might not be at a high level. Being asleep also means an individual is in a different state of consciousness compared to someone that is fully awake. The term wakefulness is defined as having thoughts, behaviors, and a high level of awareness concerning what is happening in the environment around you. Because of the brain, human beings have a certain biological rhythm that the body wants to stick to and can often perform at its best level. A parent might state to their child, "You need to go to sleep now so you can get plenty of rest and not be grumpy at school tomorrow." Scientifically speaking, the parent is correct in many ways. By not getting an adequate number of hours of sleep each night, humans put themselves at a higher risk for obesity, cardiovascular disease, Type 2 diabetes, high blood pressure, vaccine deficiency can suffer. They may be more prone to anxiety and depression and are more likely to have accidents that could cause their ultimate death. Human beings tend to have a circadian rhythm, which means that their sleep-wake cycle takes place over a 24-hour period of time. The human body can and will fluctuate throughout the day as a person's blood sugar, blood pressure, and heart rate will shift. An individual's diet, exercise, and their typical energy levels can shift depending upon a variety of circumstances. The pineal gland, located in the human brain, secretes melatonin an hour or so before a person's usual bedtime. Melatonin is the body's natural hormone that helps to bring about sleep. When a person's sleep schedule changes often, this will disrupt the body's need to keep a schedule and balance out its sleep and wake cycle. If a person deviates from their normal sleep and wake schedule, it can take up to 3 days to return the body back to normal and to prepare itself for sleep. Teenagers or adults that go to bed at 10 p.m. at night on the weekdays, who might decide to go to bed at 1 a.m. on the weekend, will find it very difficult to fall asleep on Sunday night because their brain has already shifted over to delivering melatonin to their body at midnight instead of 9 p.m. Individuals that have careers like nursing or certain service industries can sometimes experience rough times with their body's circadian rhythm. Those that work the night shift may find it really hard to get to sleep when they get home because it may be light out, and light stimulates portions of the brain that are associated with wakefulness. If an individual works at night, they should attempt to use darkened curtains at home in their bedroom, have white noise like a fan, in order to train their brain that it's time to go to sleep. Scientists have been studying individuals that spend quite a bit of time on the computer each day with artificial lights. Those lights are interfering with the brain's ability to make melatonin, and individuals are struggling with insomnia at a higher rate than ever before. Some technological companies are attempting to work around this by creating settings that slowly change the intensity of light throughout the day. When humans suffer from insomnia, or do not get an adequate amount of sleep each day, they accumulate what's called sleep debt. The more a person lacks essential sleep, the less they will be alert and effective cognitively and physically at the activities that they do within a day. Individuals do differ in their need for sleep, and the best way to find out how much your body needs for sleep is to take 3 days and sleep as long as you can for each of those 3 days, and then average those out. This will get you very close to how many hours of sleep that your body needs each night. If you're someone that sits down in a chair and falls asleep in a couple of minutes, you're probably pretty sleep deprived. Through a series of experiments with driving, certain aspects of sleep deprivation can be more dangerous than alcohol intoxication. Now, this does not mean that driving drunk and telling the officer that you're just simply sleep deprived, because this is worse, means you're going to be able to get out of driving drunk. It just means that being sleep deprived can be as dangerous of driving as drunk driving. Scientists and psychologists that specialize in sleep have found that the more severe forms of sleep deprivation take place when a person has been awake for more than 24 hours at a time. The second worst is when a person only gets 4 hours of sleep night after night after night. It's perfectly normal for a human being to begin hallucinating after staying up for more than 24 hours at a time. I have told my students for the past 10 years when I'm teaching that I believe many of our psychological illnesses and certain medical disorders come about because of inadequate or ineffective sleep. I do believe that we are going to discover so much more about our sleep and how we can make it more effective night after night. Sleep apps and sleep studies are starting to show this, and I think eventually companies are going to catch on to this and have us sleep certain nights on certain mattresses at certain temperatures to give us the best scientifically tested sleep possible. It is quite amazing that we spend 1/3 of our life sleeping. This means that most of us will spend 23 to 25 years of our life in bed asleep. Why wouldn't we want to pay attention to those items related to our sleep in order to keep us healthy and vibrant? If I could buy stock in something over the next 10 years, it would probably be related to items related to better sleep or portable home offices, because I'm very worried that this may become the age of viruses. When someone does not get enough sleep each night, when they finally do go to sleep, they'll go into something called sleep rebound. Sleep rebound means a person who is sleep deprived and they will go into stages of REM quicker than a person who is not sleep deprived in order to heal their body. This is not as good as getting a good night's sleep each night and an adequate amount of REM sleep in the first place, but it's your body's way of trying to balance itself out and to provide extra REM as soon as possible. Sleep is not only important for refilling neurotransmitters, but it is also important in the regulation of hormones. Sleep helps to balance out growth hormone, which helps us to stay young-looking. Luteinizing hormone, LH, and follicular stimulating hormone, FSH, these last two hormones are important concerning fertility and the regulation of male and female organs and their actions. When human beings are awake, our brain shows patterns of frequency known as beta waves. Beta waves have a high frequency and generally a low amplitude. When we fall asleep, this is when our brain waves begin to change. When we sleep, we have two different types of sleep. One type is called NREM, which means non-rapid eye movement. The other is called REM, which means rapid eye movement. When directly observing someone in REM, an observer will be able to see their eyes moving underneath a person's closed eyelids. The brain waves during REM sleep tend to resemble those of a person that is awake. When a person first falls asleep, they generally enter stage 1, which is non-REM sleep. This is a transitional stage of sleep where a person's heart rate and respiration start to fall. Muscle tension releases and body temperature will often drop. If a person is awoken during this stage of sleep, most will state that they never fell asleep, that they were awake the whole time. Stage 2 sleep is a deeper stage of sleep. The body relaxes even more and the brain has what are called theta waves. These waves will be interrupted by short spurts of what are called sleep spindles. These sleep spindles show high-frequency waves that help a person to remember and to learn things. Individuals will also experience what are called K complexes, which are high-amplitude waves of brain activity that respond to things that are going on outside of the person sleeping. Stage 3 sleep, non-REM sleep, is a deep sleep that has very low frequency delta waves. It is during this stage of sleep that the heart rate slows to the point that it's difficult for a person to wake up during the stage of sleep. If a person is woken up during this stage, they will feel as though they did not have a very good night's sleep, even if they did have an adequate amount of hours. REM sleep tends to occur at various times throughout the person's sleep. The longest cycles of REM take place in the last few hours of sleep before a person wakes up. REM is when a person is dreaming and the body is supposed to be paralyzed as a protective measure from people acting out what is happening in their sleep. This is why the stage of sleep where learning and memory are consolidated. This is why it is imperative for a person to have adequate sleep when they're learning new material or taking classes. Scientists are still perplexed as to why people dream. Sigmund Freud was one of the first individuals to analyze his own dreams and believed dream analysis would lead to an awareness of one's own unconscious. Freud believed that dreams could have manifest content and latent content. Manifest content means that dreams contain information about what is actually happening in a person's life. Latent context means there's a hidden or subconscious meaning to the dream. One of Freud's students, his name was Carl Jung, also studied dream content and believed dreams were a way to tap into a collective unconscious. He believed that dreams could provide messages to all people. Jung thought those messages could vary depending upon the person's culture. There are many individuals that have trouble with sleep throughout their lives. One type of sleep disturbance is known as insomnia. Insomnia is a condition in which a person has trouble falling asleep, staying asleep, or both. The average time a non-sleep deprived individual takes to fall asleep is 7 minutes. Those individuals with insomnia may struggle to fall asleep and at times may take up to 1 to 2 hours to finally fall asleep. Sometimes a person may be able to fall asleep but awaken 4 to 5 hours and not be able to get back to sleep. If a person is to be diagnosed with insomnia, they have to have trouble falling asleep or staying asleep with 3 nights a week for at least a month. The main reasons why individuals end up with insomnia are because of mental health issues, a lack of exercise, drug abuse, or unbalanced bedtime routines. Over-the-counter medications for sleep often make insomnia worse because many of these medications do not allow a person into adequate amounts of REM sleep. Cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, can prove to be beneficial for insomnia. CBT will often teach people stress management techniques and will help a person to use their bedroom for sleeping activities only. The use of white noise, blackout curtains, sleep masks, or certain smells to elicit sleep can be quite useful. A different form of sleep disorder is known as a parasomnia. This means a sleep disorder in which a person has body movements or physical movements during sleep that are unwanted and can sometimes be dangerous to the person or others around them. This may include sleepwalking, restless leg syndrome, night terrors, which we'll discuss in detail now. The first form of parasomnia is called somnambulism, which is better known as sleepwalking. Generally, people that sleepwalk can move about, talk, and interact with others, but not known that they are doing so. They can have their eyes open, but are not aware of someone talking with them. There is a famous young woman on TikTok that sleepwalks, and her footage is absolutely fascinating. It is interesting that she talks about sleepwalking running in her family. She had her brother over one night, and the two of them were both sleepwalking, which was absolutely fascinating. Can I just say that my favorite footage of hers is when she takes drinks outside and throws them in the lawn. She states that she was having or dreaming about a pool party. This shows how amazing the human brain is because her long-term memory, located in her hippocampus, knows where everything is in her house, down to the letter. and she may be walking about her house, not even visually recognizing where the steps are at or where her furniture is. But her brain may already be giving her that information, like a person that drives a car to a place over and over and over again, not really recognizing how they consciously got there. We are literally inside that woman's dream with her. So it is absolutely fascinating. I would love to talk with her sometime and get more scientific information about when this happens to her and if she has more trouble bumping into things if she stays at a place that she doesn't know. Sleepwalking has been treated in the past with benzodiazepines or antidepressants, and they are sometimes helpful, other times they just don't seem to help at all. Now, restless leg syndrome is another parasomnia that can impact human beings. Restless leg syndrome means that people have strange and uncomfortable sensations of sorts in a person's legs that come about generally later in the evening when a person starts to get tired and the body prepares to go to sleep. Sometimes RLS doesn't happen until the person falls asleep, but will cause the involuntary movement of their legs. This can be extremely irritating for a person who's trying to sleep next to someone who's being consistently kicked or their legs are shifting back and forth as they try to sleep. RLS can sometimes indicate type 2 diabetes or kidney disease. There are drugs that can be taken to reduce the symptoms of RLS. The last parasomnia that we're going to talk about today is known as night terrors. Night terrors involve a tremendous increase in one's blood pressure, heart rate, and even respiration. Night terrors tend to take place when the person is dreaming. It may sometimes include physical movement, and a person can strike out physically with their arms and legs. They do not consciously know that they're doing this and will not remember what they did in the morning. Generally, a night terror can be indicative that there is something physically wrong with the body. A person that experiences night terrors should go to the doctor and have a physical. Those that are experiencing a night terror will eventually finish the bad night terror and will go back to sleep without movement or activity. One sleep issue that's been impacting human beings to a greater extent is called sleep apnea. Sleep apnea is a medical disorder in which a person stops breathing for 10 to 20 seconds or longer during a certain amount of times per hour. As an example, my husband has sleep apnea, and when he got his sleep study, it was found that he had stopped breathing 46 times per hour. This was very destructive to his brain because his body couldn't get into REM for needed periods of time, and he ended up being exhausted throughout the day, and he even fell asleep quite a bit at his desk at work. What makes sleep apnea so dangerous is that when the brain is not getting enough oxygen, it sends a signal to the body to make more red blood cells, which are the cells that carry oxygen. This making of red blood cells comes from the bone marrow, and these extra red blood cells are not needed. The individual becomes even more exhausted because the human body is trying to make these extra red blood cells that it doesn't need. There are a host of medical problems that can arise from people having undiagnosed and untreated sleep apnea, including anxiety, depression, heart problems, circulatory problems, and will find it nearly impossible to lose weight. Narcolepsy is the last sleep disorder that we're going to talk about today, even though there are other sleep disorders that exist. Narcolepsy is a neurological condition where an individual will fall asleep at inappropriate times when the person generally does not want to fall asleep. Many people with narcolepsy have episodes of cataplexy, which causes muscles to lose their tone and weaken and can sometimes cause a paralysis of voluntary muscles. 33% of individuals with narcolepsy experience dreams or strange hallucinations during their narcoleptic sleep attacks. These pretty immediate attacks of sleep tend to happen more often when the person is experiencing a high level of stress or they are having a tougher time keeping a very particular routine. When the individual wakes from their sleep, They often feel refreshed. Individuals with narcolepsy find it difficult to go to school or work if others do not understand their disorder. The last item that we're going to discuss in relation to psychology and states of consciousness is drugs. When individuals take drugs, they can have a psychological or physical dependence to these legal or illegal drugs. A psychological dependence is an emotional dependence or need for the drug. A physical dependence takes place when the drug impacts a person's body and its processes. When the drug is no longer taken, it forces the body's processes to rebalance themselves, and physical pain can be experienced at this place or at this time. Those individuals that take certain drugs for a period of time can develop a tolerance to them as well. This means it takes more and more of the drug for it to have the same effect as it has had in the past. Taking more and more of a drug, depending upon the drug, can sometimes hurt the person, and they may even die if they experience an overdose. There are many times or different forms of drugs that exist, and each of their categories has a different effect on the human body. The first category of drugs is called stimulants. Examples of these drugs include MDMA, amphetamines, and cocaine. These drugs impact the body by increasing heart rate, may decrease a person's appetite, may induce agitation, may cause hallucinations, cause paranoia, and can assist a person to be more alert. The next category of drugs that we're going to talk about are sedatives or hypnotics. Examples of sedatives or hypnotics include benzodiazepines, alcohol, or barbiturates. These category of drugs tend to decrease one's heart rate and blood pressure. They may cause a person to become sleepy or drowsy, and can interrupt a person's movements. They can decrease respirations, can cause memory loss, and in high amounts can cause somebody to die. Another category of drugs is known as opioids. Examples of opiates are heroin, morphine, oxycodone, or methadone. These drugs can create a sense of euphoria, decrease pain, cause pupil dilation, can bring about sleepiness, and can decrease respiration to the point of death. Opiates can be psychologically and physically addictive. Alright, well, we have reached the end of the video. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comments section down below, and I will get back to those as quickly as possible. I hope you liked the video, and if you did, please hit that like button and subscribe. There should be some worksheets that are coming along in the next couple weeks, so hopefully those will be there for you. Have a wonderful day, and I will talk with you soon.